would say this is a major victory for them. And it is interesting, it's an ideological fight. It also will show you what the Titanic showdown of the century is, because there's a reason that Mark Zuckerberg has his ass down in Mar-a-Lago, and that Jeff Bezos yesterday at the New York Times Deal Book Conference was like, Trump is great, he's really learned about how to quash regulation.
Oh, I was wondering what he was gonna say
these
there.
people, they know that this is probably the single largest existential threat to their business. Like, if you really believe that AI is the future, which all of them do, and all of them have poured billions of dollars of their profits into, they don't have to do that if they didn't think it would be commercially viable, then your inability to capture that future market would both kill your current investment and possibly could put you out of business in the future, or at the very least have to compete. God forbid that they would have to do that. So you have a lot of stuff going on right now. There's a lot of ideas about splitting Google search away from Google Ads and or from the rest of the Alphabet company. Amazon, which Bezos, of course, used to helm, the idea is he would split like AWS away from their retail business. There's a lot of unfair competition that happens in this sector. So anyway, I think I think it will be, it could be one of the most positive developments, and the fact that he picked her is a very, very good sign.
I actually think this is a more important development than while you were out, we covered the labor secretary who had voted for the PRO Act.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the rest of her record, she only has a 10% record of voting with the AFL-CIO. So like backing the PRO Act was an attempt to win in a swing district, and also the labor secretary is in a lot of ways less powerful than whoever you put in at the NLRB. So that one's still very like, I'm not sure how much we're getting out of this one. This one to me is more significant. You know, I take my cues on antitrust from Matt Stoller because he just knows way more about it than I'll ever dream of knowing.
He's probably worked with Gail.
And he clearly knows who she is, probably has worked directly with her. And it's funny because he had just tweeted, like, the Trump administration has studiously avoided putting any economic populists into their administration, and then within minutes, they made this pick. So, you know, we shouldn't overstate it because there's still a very few people you would consider to be like J.D. Vance allies who've been put into the administration. And those tensions you're talking about, I mean, that's not just outside of the Trump world, the Zuckerbergs and the Sundar Pichai, and Tim Cook, or Tim Apple, as Trump likes to call him, who, you know, have called Trump and are trying to get in good with him and trying to reassure him and make sure that their companies don't end up being targeted. But, you know, obviously he has, and we're about to get to, he has a lot of billionaire, more libertarian-minded people who are in his administration or who are influential with his administration who are not interested in going in this particular direction. So, you know, those typical like Chamber of Commerce business interests still have a lot of sway in the Republican Party in particular and in Washington in general. So this will be quite a battle to see how this all ultimately turns out. And let's get to the next one. Speaking of, you know, some of the ideological indications of this administration, this is zero surprise, but still worth taking note of. So the current SEC commissioner is a guy named Gary Gensler, who, among other things, has believed that cryptocurrencies should be regulated by the SEC. And the SEC of the various financial regulatory agencies is the most aggressive in terms of enforcement. That created all kinds of, you know, conflicts and recriminations. There was a whole fight about, okay, which agency should really be regulating or not really regulating the crypto industry. And to be honest with you, probably whether it was Kamala or Trump, because the crypto industry has spent a lot of money in our electoral system on both sides of the aisle, you were going to get an SE chair who was going to be, you know, much more crypto friendly. And that is exactly what Trump has picked here. He picked Paul Atkins to run the SEC. They describe him as a pro-business conservative. He'd previously been an SEC commissioner under George W. Bush. And what he is known for is he's on the advisory board of Securitized digital asset firm that promotes the use of digital tokens. He's considered to be very friendly to the crypto industry, will probably, you know, push the regulation of this over to one of the other bodies that will do a lot less in terms of enforcement. And then one of the other big things they'll have to decide right away that's pointed out in this article is the SEC had filed charges against Coinbase, which is obviously a massive crypto exchange. They charged the company with violating securities law. We had covered this here by failing to register as a broker, allowing unregistered crypto assets to be sold on its platform. So that will be one of the first questions, and it's one of the current SEC Commissioner Gary Gensler's signature cases. Are they going to continue that high-profile enforcement action? I would say it is very unlikely.
Oh, no. I mean, listen, for anybody who's paying attention, Tyler Winklevoss and Cameron Winklevoss and who else? All of the entire crypto industry, the Bitcoin conference, they did not give $1 million to Trump for free. Donald Trump did not change his mind on crypto for free.
Yeah.
When I actually remember when he was president, because I freaked out about it, whenever he tweeted against Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself, hilariously, is actually very counter to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is obsessed with the strong dollar. That's why he loves tariffs, and that's why he wants to impose tariffs on the BRICS countries who are pursuing an alternative currency. But the truth is that the immense amount of wealth in Bitcoin is now basically undeniable. As of this morning, Bitcoin officially crossed the 100,000 threshold, something I never dreamed in a million years that I would actually get to see this day. I was shit posting memes about Bitcoin going to the moon when it was at $9,000. Just for context.
I remember.
I bought I was talking to you about it. Should have listened. Bought my first Bitcoin, I think in 2015, just for context. And I thought I was late. I was like, there's no way, and it's all gonna go to zero. So worked out. But the point is that with Bitcoin itself, it has now become look, I mean, this is a multi-gajillion dollar industry, because we're not even talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about platforms like Gemini, which are owned by the Winklevi. Then you've got the Coinbase itself, a multi-billion dollar company. I mean, this is clearly here to stay. There's just no getting around it. You've got Bitcoin ETFs now that have happened. What the SEC did, this is nerdy, so stick with me, is that they decided crypto should be regulated as a security, and that every transaction on the blockchain would have to comply with securities laws. There's a specific test that the Supreme Court has determined, or maybe some other court, I forget. The financial guys can explain it to me. But effectively, there's like a type of regulation which goes into play legally that requires an immense amount of compliance if you want to be able to transact like that under the current SEC regime. Mm-hmm. It has been the basically bête noire of the crypto industry since that went into place in 2022 under Gary Gensler to have that guidance reversed. And it was one of the main reasons that a lot of these tech people decided to back Donald Trump. So look, again, they're going to get what they paid for.
That's right.
And, you know. Yeah.
Well,
and they were probably going to get some of it under Kamala.
They
too,
were.
So, yeah.
I mean, you remember Mark Cuban was floating himself for SEC chair.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, exactly.
And, it was clear, like, there was a war on Gary Gensler, and that war had already been won before this election. And one of the seminal moments was, because it's crazy, because you have the whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing, right? This massive fraud is exposed, and how this was just like a house of cards and a total Ponzi scheme, and he goes to prison, and, he's giving all kinds of money publicly to Democrats and more secretly to Republicans. And so you would have thought that would have dealt a blow to their influence in D.C., but not at all. On the contrary, they sort of got smart from there. They lobby and organize super PACs just like every other major interest. In fact, crypto was one of, if not the largest contributor to the 2024 elections by industry in this entire election. But one of the seminal moments in this fight was Katie Porter, who had been, adversarial to them. And it's not like they're like, oh, we have to get rid of Bitcoin. It's like, we're going to enforce, securities regulations, as Sagar was explaining, using the SEC. And so they're more adversarial, Elizabeth Warren being part of that wing as well. So in any case, they dropped millions of dollars in Katie Porter's race, and they were able to defeat her. And that really sent a chill across any legislator who had been more adversarial to crypto. And since then, they've all just been folding like a deck of cards on both sides of the aisle. So even before Trump was able to win, they had already basically locked in a more friendly regime, whether it was Kamala or whether it was Trump. And of course, we can't forget, Trump himself has his own stupid cryptocurrency at this point as well. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot that's disturbing about that in terms of the possibility for corruption. Last time in the Trump administration, the way for people to get in good with Trump was to stay at his hotel and demonstrably and performatively stay at his hotel and secure a large block of rooms and spend lots and lots of money. Now they can just buy a bunch of his crypto coin. What is it? Is it called Trump coin? Whatever it's called. Anyway, they can do that, and there's already a lot of indication that that's already happening. By the way, so yeah, he's all in with them.
Crystal is a Tuah coin.
Oh my God!
She apparently was pumping. I don't
course.
know. Look, I am
course.
pro.
Look, you kind of have to admire this lady for the way she's capitalized on her